I forgot. I forgot for like 1 second, and it proved to be my undoing.
That's what you get for working out, man.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. It'll kill you. You just die sooner.
You know what? You're right.
The ultimate health guide is don't consume or burn any calories.
So you've been reading a lot of Hickman stuff?
Yeah. So I finished Fantastic Four recently, within the past like month-ish. That was pretty good. I really liked his Franklin Richards a lot.
Yeah.
And then it just made me so immensely sad that whoever it is just completely like rewrote, oh, he's not a mutant anymore.
Yeah.
Like, scrapped all of it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he just imagined it.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
wanted to be special. I hated
really
it.
was the guy that made Franklin Richards a character.
Yes.
You know, before that he was just the baby.
Yeah, he made him a cool character. And like the issue with the uncles is so good, man.
Which issue?
It's where Johnny Storm is dead, and then Franklin Richards is obviously grieving it.
Right.
And so they get Spider-Man to come in and like
oh yes, I remember.
And talks about obviously Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
And like Franklin said, like, can I tell you a secret? He's like, what? I think I could have saved my uncle. I think I could have saved Johnny. And Spider-Man was like, can I tell you one? I know I could have saved my uncle. Hickmans Avengers has been pretty good so far. It just makes me really interested to see what they do with Mars, like now that mutants have taken over Mars. Because yeah, it's a huge shift for the tone of X-Men, like, and of mutants really. They had like a council essentially, with a bunch of other like intergalactic representatives,
right.
And they essentially were like, if you want to do business with the Sol system, you do it through us. We are now the speakers for this solar system. Humans are just these little backwater.
Yeah.
Like they literally called Earth a backwater planet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of true.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is the Erico or whatever. That is the capital of Sol now.
Yeah.
Or Mars is the capital of Sol now.
Araco?
Yeah, Erico. Whatever.
It's talking about random comic pronunciation. How did you guys pronounce Black Panther's name before they said it in the movies?
T'Challa, I think.
T'Challa?
T'Challa.
I've heard T'Challa, and I've heard T'Challa.
Really?
Yes. And both those are actually fine for me.
That's fair, yeah.
One time, though, I heard some idiot call him Chiala, and the T is silent. I was like, the T is silent, and then you throw some random I's and Y's in there. Especially because once you find out his father's name, which is King T'Chaka, right? You realize it can't be like T'Challa, because then it would... Yeah.
It could be. It'd be a weird name.
Yeah.
It could be.
That's some Brian Michael Bendis level quip there.
Yeah.
Although, say what you will, I actually have been enjoying his Justice League run. I liked Brian Michael Bendis, but a lot of his criticisms are correct. He does do like a weird Bendis speak.
Yeah.
And it was in Marvel for so long, I was like, is everything in DC going to be Bendis speak? But I do feel like he toned it down a little, and even though there is some, and at points it gets a little overwhelming, I think as a whole the story has been pretty good. I like that he went and created Naomi, and then just immediately went, Naomi's in the Justice League now, because I'm also writing Justice League. Too bad. That being said, I thought Naomi was actually a pretty well-written character, and I do like the premise that she's a small-town girl, and so she's kind of like socially awkward, fish out of water kind of situation there. I don't mind it. I actually like her powers and her costume design. And by using Naomi to introduce like a whole new evil world with like Zombato, that's the current Justice League villain, that's pretty cool. And I mean, David Marquez's art is also just, it's phenomenal. But I thought it was really clever that Brian Michael Bendis recruited Black Adam into the Justice League.
Yeah, I saw on the cover.
Yeah, and how
it seems interesting.
It's kind of a 180 actually.
Yeah.
It's very strange to me. But I don't think I mind. Like, Black Adam is right sometimes. He kind of...
Yeah. He's always been kind of that character that just teeters on, like, if you had a few good character motivations, you could be a good anti-hero.
In recent times, I feel like comics have portrayed Black Adam more kind of just like the Superman of the Middle East, you know? Kind of watching over everybody. I think they tried to, like, start humanizing him. Like, even a few years ago when they cast The Rock as Black Adam, they're like, we're gonna make him like a better guy. We're gonna make him a good guy. In the most recent issue of Justice League, Black Adam does like meet with Queen Hippolyta, who is also joining the Justice League. Wonder Woman's mom is like, oh, my daughter's gone missing because she's doing like transdimensional post death metal adventures. I guess I'll be the Wonder Woman here. I gotta learn more about like civilization.
Did they just need someone to fill that character archetype?
They dislike each other very much, but then you know, I like how when she sees, oh geez, even Black Adam is joining the Justice League. Maybe I'm the one losing touch, and now she's in the Justice League. And the whole arc was talking about how the Justice League needs to change their point of view. Superman's like, what do you mean? And Green Arrow's like, dude, you're Superman, all right? Disagreeing with you is like disagreeing with Jesus. You just say what's good, dude. And then we all just go, yeah, we need a different opinion there. And, you know, Naomi is young, so she brings in, like, a teenager's opinion. Black Adam is super old, so he brings, like, a very, you know, century-old wisdom. Same with Hippolyta. So I'm curious where it's going to go. When I saw David Marquez for the first time in Marvel, I was blown away. You remember that Defenders fight between Elektra and Iron Fist?
Yeah.
Well, yes. Where it started, like, 16 panels, then 8, then 4, then 2, then 1. Amazing fight. I maybe I'm biased because I just love the art. Have you ever watched Final Space? It's on Adult Swim, but
oh wait, I know. Okay, I know what it is. I haven't watched. I still haven't watched any of it. But what do you think about it?
It's actually, I think it's very underrated right now for the ratings it gets. The premise is basically that Gary Goodspeed, who's just this kind of dickhead, like but like with heart of gold, kind of Star-Lordy. To impress a girl, he stole a ship and crashed and destroyed a bunch of stuff. So he got sentenced to a prison ship by himself, where he has to go around fixing satellites and stuff in space. Without spoiling too much, he ends up in command of a ship called the Galaxy 1 with a small bare-bone crew made up of like him, this woman named Quinn, this like cat person who's a commando, and he's awesome. He's kind of like Boba Fett if he was a cat, named Cato, and then his son Little Cato. It started off as just a comedy, I guess, in season 1, and at that point it wasn't like, in terms of jokes, it wasn't fighting at its weight, you know? Like pound for pound, there are some better animated comedies out there.
You idiot! That's my freaking arm! You just ripped off my arm! Oh my god! What the?
But then something miraculous happened in season 2 where it turned into a comedy drama. And at that point in season 2, and definitely in season 3, I feel like they managed to capture the feeling of Star Wars into a cartoon. I wouldn't even classify it as a comedy for the 3rd season. It's more drama with comedic elements than it is a comedy with dramatic elements.
I really appreciate any show that can weave the two of those very well.
There are lots of scenes that are actually like really, really sad. Like it would be tear-jerking if they were live action, you know? They were kind of tear-jerking even when they weren't.
I lived a life hinged on stealing and dealing. In that kind of life, you learn to read people. What were their names? The love you lost?
Holly and Jed.
They would probably be ashamed of what you've become.
I love that the constant theme of Final Space is parenthood. It's all about parents. It's about characters' relationships to their siblings, to the parents, in being a parent, how they feel about being a parent, about adopting kids, about like what family means. It's all like, it's a constant theme throughout, and yet after 3 seasons, I feel like it's still not overdone. Like they're very careful of it, but when you look at the big picture, the whole story is just about a group of people and their relationships with their parents.
So they're making a new Justice League, but soft reboot. So are they replacing anybody?
No, not a new Justice League, a new Suicide Squad.
Yeah, okay. You said Justice League, so I
sorry. No,
I know about that.
The new Suicide Squad, which is like sort of a sequel reboot, where it's like, oh, half the characters are the same, but you know, it's our second try at Suicide Squad.
I'm fine. You know what? Honestly, the thing is, I don't care anymore. I've been so disillusioned to the idea that DC can make good live action that I'm past the point of not caring at all. So now, I welcome every new attempt. Do it waste as much money as you want. Burn all your money in an attempt to make a good live action movie. Yeah. And if you accidentally do it, great.
It's James Gunn. I actually think it'll probably be pretty good. Yeah.
I do too.
There's probably going to be at least one slow-mo touching scene about family.
That's fine. Whatever. I'm okay with it. I'm never going to be mad at them for trying again. I'll just keep looking forward to every single DC animated movie that they make, which are literally always good. Almost.
You're watching Chernobyl?
Yeah, it's very intense.
I also found it weird that all the Russian people had English accents.
Right? So many English people in the Ukraine. Like, that's like one of the few places in our world that I would love to go to just see.
You don't want to go anywhere else.
I wouldn't care about anywhere else if I could go there instead.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, that's like a legitimate ghost town. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Pripyat.
Actually, it's not anymore. People are starting to move back now.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah. If I recall, the story was a bunch of people that lived just outside the outskirts just decided to go back and start living in the buildings. And then more and more people did that because they were just squatting there. When, like, I think government officials went there and saw how many people were living there, they're like, do you guys want to live here? They're like, yeah, whatever.
How long until we get superpowers? What do you think?
Well, I was having a lovely conversation with my girlfriend about this where, have you guys seen Unbreakable?
Yeah.
With Bruce Willis?
Yeah. And Glass End.
No.
So Unbreakable is a movie about Bruce Willis who's caught in a train disaster. And he's the only one that makes it out alive. More so, he makes it out unscathed. And so he goes to talk to Samuel L. Jackson's character, who is a person that is very, very smart, but he was born with a disease where his bones are like glass. Like, they just break at anything, so he's kind of wheelchair bound. And he tells Bruce Willis that he believes that Bruce Willis is superhuman. And Bruce Willis, of course, at first is like, no, this is impossible. This is stupid, you know. But he starts checking things like, he realizes he's never taken a sick day once in his life. He realizes that the knee injury he faked when he was a teenager was just because he didn't want to pursue like a career as a football player. And it turns out that he is a superhero. Then M. Night Shyamalan did a bunch of other stuff, and then in 2014 he made Split, which is actually also really good, starring James McAvoy. In Split, James McAvoy plays a person with dissociative identity disorder. He has, I believe, 37 personalities, except that in it, his psychologist is writing a paper about him, about how a human being, whether be it mental illness or whatever, can believe so hard that they make themselves something. So, for example, one of his personalities is diabetic, but no other personality is. So only when that personality is taken over does their blood sugar level rise and they actually need to take insulin. Ultimately, half of the identities side with an identity called the Beast. And the Beast is actually like an animalistic identity. And so when he takes over, at the end of that movie, that's also the twist, is that they keep, like, at first you think it's a horror movie and they're just like, the Beast is going to get you, and you think the Beast is like just the murdering identity, and then you realize the Beast is an actual beast that can climb on walls and like has super strength and is not bulletproof but bullet resistant, you know, and can bend steel bars. And then at the end of Split, in the post credits, the twist upon the twist was that this was in the Unbreakable universe. So then Glass comes out. At this point, all three of them have been arrested in some way, shape, and they're sent to a mental hospital with a doctor that specializes in people who think that they've become superheroes. And Samuel L. Jackson, slowly, as the mastermind, he manipulates everything to where Bruce Willis is pitted against James McAvoy, and they fight in broad daylight. They fight to a standstill, but then it turns out that the doctor was actually not a doctor. She was an agent of a secret organization dedicated to keeping the existence of superhumans secret. The ending was divisive because it ended with that agent just killing all three of them, being like, nobody can ever know. So I have to kill you, but I want you to know you guys did have powers. I'm sorry this had to end this way. I would have left you alone, Bruce Willis, but it always works out the same way. When a force for good comes out, a force for evil always comes out, and vice versa. But one of the discussions they have, it's a very basic one, but I actually kind of agree with it, where Samuel L. Jackson believes that comic books are a continuation of depictions of superhuman people based off of something people felt or saw about something. In that throughout history, there have always been superhuman. Not saying that like Superman's superhuman, but people with, honest to God, what you would call superpowers.
So instead of what we currently see them as like power fantasies,
yeah,
it's more like they are a collective subconscious of humanity. right? Like a subconscious memory that we have of superpowers.
Yeah, or rather that the basis of superheroes comes from the documentation of the superpowered back in ancient times.
Yeah.
Someone saw something happen.
At some point in
And
time,
wrote
and they
it.
passed it down, whether through paintings or stories. Yeah, exactly. I really love that. And I do actually kind of believe that, because when I was getting my history degree, you look back, there are a lot of superhuman legends and myths. And I mean, obviously there's going to be embellishment. It's the friggin' Greeks, right? I mean, even right now, they might not be famous, but we even have diseases that could result in this. For example, you've seen those photos of the musculature disease, where muscle just keeps growing in a body, so you have those shredded cows and those shredded dogs. Yeah. People can get that too. So a person with that would, by definition, have super strength. Their muscles would be incredibly dense. And me and my girlfriend, we just got to talking, thinking about like different historical figures that probably would be kind of superhuman. Like, I think I've told you about Guan Yu, right? He's the legendary warrior of ancient China who was just the baddest motherfucker ever. He once had open arm surgery because his arm got poisoned. They cut his arm open down to the bone and were scraping the poison off. And he refused anesthetic. He just drank and played chess while commanding the battle from his balcony. A lot of people said he was like inhumanly strong. I mean, he was so beloved. When he died, they made him the god of war. But one of the things was that he, and you know, it's up to historical dispute, but one of the most common traits he had was that he was beet red. People were like, he was beet red all the time. And if you think about it, it's like a dude who's superhumanly strong, just warrior that's beet red. That's a superhero or super villain, depending on what side you're on. I do think even nowadays we see Usain Bolt, who I would say can run superhumanly fast. I think one in maybe 100 million, maybe 1 billion people can reach speeds up to the ones he has.
I think you could just as easily go with it like, we don't even understand fully yet the level of human variance possible and like human limit and human potential. That, like, I wouldn't say he's superhumanly fast. I would just say the fact that we are so stunned by it means that we have no idea what humanly fast really looks like.
Well, absolutely. But even, you know, with optimal training, not every human body can do that. That there are some bodies, like, for example, I would say the ability for, and I get you would call it evolution, but I'm saying in comparison to the grand spectrum of human population, you know, the people that have descended from deep sea divers that can just naturally hold their breath for 15 minutes. You know, that for me, that's superhuman. It's not just from training, it's from like an inherited ability that they then in turn have trained over and over. It's not an ability a human can train to develop. I don't think, like,
you can't train yourself into acquiring
having super lungs. Historical figures, especially in the olden times when they're like legends were still a thing. I think there were some superhumans, you know, the more realistic form of superhumans. They're not bulletproof, but they were stronger, faster, just like how I think there are actually super geniuses out here right now. And the reason we don't hear about them is because they don't want to be known. They don't want to be found out. I looked up, there are 5, apparently there are 5 what's called super prodigies, and they all just secretly own crazy companies and have their own private research bases. We probably have real life supervillains if any of them ever wanted to actually take over everything. Another one that my girlfriend brought up, the White Death, the Polish sniper, who could snipe people from miles away without a scope through like the hole of a little snow cave. I don't know about you, that's superhuman, and I would never dare say to his face that wasn't superhuman. Otherwise, like one day I'd be walking and then I'd be dead.
At that range, you don't even hear the shot. You're already dead.
He is a one-man army.
Do you think the odds are higher that it's superhuman or just aliens?
I think we're going to get to the point where we do have a way to develop semi-superhuman abilities. It's just we won't call them superhuman because everybody will have them.
I always worry about the future of humans because it's like, will we become the Terrans or will we become like Starfleet? Will we be good guys, or will we be the terrors of
I really
the
hope for
universe?
Starfleet, man.
I think we're going to be the Imperium of Man from Warhammer 40k. That's what I think. I think we're going to regress to the point where we're just worshipping machine gods.
It really comes down to who we encounter first.
I think that's
peaceful.
irrelevant. I think that's irrelevant. I think if we encounter people that are peaceful, some idiot on Earth is going to fire the first shot. In the grand scheme of 12,000 years of human development, how long do you think until our human civilization collapses on itself? How long do you give us?
It's such a funny question to ask such an uneducated person.
Well, we're idiots. You do read the
Already-
description of these videos,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
It's-
You asking me that
Yeah.
question just reminded me of how small I am.
Yeah.
Because even people that are really smart do not have a good answer. to this
Yeah,
question.
yeah. I just imagine that, like, 500 years ago, two idiots probably had this same conversation, like on a random
Yeah,
hill
but,
in
like,
Rome.
what
They're
would
like,
it-
how long do you think we give?
But
And they're like,
there's no
100 years
way-
tops.
There's no way they were doing it through the lens that we have. So what was the lens? It wasn't, oh, we can all like agree, like, clearly we're not doing the planet any favors.
Yeah.
We did not have that kind of consciousness back then.
Yeah. Oh,
No awareness of like, oh, we're killing the planet.
that's a good point. Maybe
None
it's
of that. So I would say another big one that we have now is political. We can see, like, we can look at global affairs and say there's a good chance world wars can happen.
Yeah.
But in 1500, do you think they had that kind of thought process? Like, oh, we're going to go to war with these other countries and, like,
I
they're
think
going
they
to
would just
literally
think we're going to
single-handed...
conquer them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did they imagine the world ending at 1500? Probably just the rapture, right? I mean, I don't know what the atheist population of 1500 was, but I imagine fairly small. I mean, maybe it gave them hope. Not hope, but like the lack of hope let them sacrifice themselves to that feeling and not care. Because they're like, well, God's just going to come whenever he feels like it. There's nothing I can do about it.
That's
Oh, well.
that's a good point, actually.
But you and I have to think about, like, man, should I buy a Tesla? Because I keep killing the environment with my car. But
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't matter because it's just me. But if everyone thinks that way, then we're going to kill the planet. So maybe I should. And we have to go through all these thoughts
Yeah.
and we worry about it every day.
What if we deserve it?